Alright, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome in if you're new. I want us to talk a little bit in this video about the HEX price. Is it time for a breakout? If you enjoy this kind of quantitative technical analysis on HEX, leave a thumbs up. Let's be subscribed by the end of the video if you aren't already. Let's talk about this. So the first time, well, first I should say that on the HEX price, we've generally had clear support resistance regions a few times. The first time being back here last year, where we had a local top followed by finding support on that local top, and then from there it was off to the races for approximately a 10x move from this region to up here. Okay, and at that point we reached another local top, about 60% of a penny, which became clear resistance in the future. Resistance, resistance. Over here was support for this little bounce, but then we broke through it. You could argue it was support here, and we've never gone back since. But when we broke through it over here, we formed another local top, and these levels become significant later on, right? And you can see we've had it plenty of times. These HEX likes to have these very clear horizontal levels, horizontal support resistance levels, which you've seen have been all the way down here, over here, and most recently over here, right? And so you know what happens every single time. Whenever we start holding it as support, it's generally a good sign. For example, back here, support happened right over here. Excuse the phone ringing in the background. I'm not going to answer that. The second time, it took 2 taps for us to actually definitively hold the support level. Right here, it was just one tap, I guess you could say, before a 10x. Over here, it was a couple taps before a 13x or so. On this level, it was a single tap before it was off to the races. And then over here, well, I guess we'll find out, right? Over here, we had our clear ascending triangle formation, right? And now we've tapped this level once. So you already know what's happened historically once HEX has found support on key horizontal levels, right? It's pretty clear at this point what happens. So I don't even have to tell you. Just look at this chart, right? I would argue we have hit a very, very important level of support, and at this point, is it go time? That's why I'm calling this video. Is it time, right? Is it time for a breakout? Here's another chart I want to look at. Right, this is a longer term chart. This is the full history of the HEX price before certain moves. Which, you know what? Let's just take a look at them before I move on to that next chart. Alright, this first move was about a 14x, 14.8x. Second move was about a 3.6x, and then the next move was about a 7x. And these moves are defined as when we've actually found support on these horizontal levels. Right, this one found it on the first tap, it's found on the second, so we're measuring it from here. This one found it on the first, so we're measuring it from here. So anywhere from 266% gain to 1,382% gain, which translates to about 3.6x to about 14.8x. So if you want to round, anywhere from like 3 to 15x is what we could be seeing from here. 3x would put us around 20 cents. 15x would put us at around, $1 almost. So could we see a big move incoming? I think if there was a time, now would probably be the time. The market is pretty quiet, consolidating near all-time highs. A subtle little uptrend. We see hidden bullish divergences. Things are looking good. Now, this other, a little more shorter-term channel that I found has been intact ever since the big payday, which is this vertical yellow dotted line, up to now. And you can see that it's been significant in the sense that it's held support and resistance. Bottom of the channel, support, resistance. Support, resistance. Over here, support, resistance. It's pretty obvious, right? Once we broke through it, good time to accumulate, and we actually found a few resistance taps on it. You could argue this pumped up to 3 pennies, got rejected down to 2, which at the time was kind of big. So resistance, support. You could argue it almost tapped here, found support again here with a wick, a couple taps up here, and we've been riding it ever since. So you could say this is a significant level because it's held support and resistance multiple times on different occasions. So where is the top of this channel right now? Well, let's say price were to go up to the top of the channel within the next 24 hours. That would correspond to about 12.46 cents. So about 12.5 cents, give or take. And again, this just keeps moving up. By the end of July, this level is at around 18 cents. By the end of August, this level is at around 28 cents, and so on. By the end of the year, well, this chart doesn't really extend that far. 26th of December, the top of this is at around $1.60. The bottom of it at exactly $1. So obviously, we don't know if we can hold this uptrend for that long, but I mean, we have held it for like, what's November 20th, 2020 to now? Like, we can literally just measure this date range. 228 days. So it's held significance for 228 days. Price has more or less oscillated around it and held it as significant support resistance on the upper and the lower bands. So yeah, you can tell it's been like above it, in, below, more or less just in it right now. Right? So we actually haven't bubbled up above it like we did over here. At this point, we bubbled like 3x above it. So like I was saying, the top of the channel currently corresponds to 12.5 cents. So a 3x bubble above this would be close to 37.5 cents or so if we had something similar to this play out, which if you take a bars pattern, then it would look something like this. Right, where we keep holding this channel as resistance, support, resistance, resistance. Then if you finally break through it, you might see a 3x bubble up above it, which if it played out just like this region over here, this actually hits like 55 cents, which would be 10,000x from the bottom. So that's kind of nice. And that would hit August 8th or so about a month from now. So yeah, I mean, that lines up with certain things like this where you're like, okay, well, could we see a huge move up? Yeah, it looks like it's a good time for it to happen if there were ever a time. Then we see that this channel has held significance as support and resistance. And so could we see something like this? I don't think it's out of the cards, especially because this channel is held for 228 days. So those are those two charts for you. There are a few more charts actually I want to show you. First one being this chart here, this HEX versus Ether chart. Now, yes, you can argue that this is like comparing apples to oranges, and this chart doesn't really matter to look at, but hey, the data is data, and at the end of the day, there are certain patterns that play out that I notice that I can't help but want to share with you. So if you look at what's going on now on the HEX ETH chart, we are pretty much holding support with some, you could say, consolidation around this level that was a local top back in November of 2020. All right, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because this happened on the HEX BTC chart not that long ago. We had our local peak of November 2020. The HEX BTC chart came up here above that level, did some consolidation above previous all-time highs before blasting off. And this was also characterized by a hidden bullish divergence on the RSI. So if you look at the HEX BTC chart formation, it's this, right? We had our divergence that formed over the course of 17 days or so, whilst finding consolidation / support on top of this all-time high. And so again, if you look at this chart over here, the HEX ETH chart, are they on the same time frame? Daily? Yep, daily. You see that, again, we've had our hidden bullish divergence form over the course of 20-something days, so about a month, almost the exact same. And we are currently holding support / consolidating on top of this all-time high of November 1st of 2020. And so what happened after this is we went from the 110 Satoshi region up to nearly the 300 Satoshi region. So a 2 to 3x or so. What would that put price at? Obviously, we're at 8.5 cents right now or so. So 2 to 3x would be 17 to 25 cents. So a lot of things are telling me that a pump is incoming, right? Is it time yet? I don't know. Not financial advice on this channel, never. Generic disclaimer for this video, but things are looking good. A couple more charts before we end the video is the HEX versus ETH regression rainbow extension from FIT, which is right here. And again, we've had very similar things play out where a bubble up to these regions at the very start, launch hype, crash back down to the beginning of its exponential support, another bubble up to overvaluation above this FIT, which this bubble was about 10x from the FIT and on Ether and 20x from the FIT on HEX. And then we had a clear downtrend on this regression rainbow, right? Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. Same on HEX, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. Before some consolidation, some support down here on the exponential FIT. Now, something a little interesting here is that on Ether, we had consolidation down here. If you see, we had like a small bull flag, some consolidation before this move up to the green level. Whereas on HEX, we didn't really have this consolidation as much. We more or less just pumped right up to this yellow level and have been consolidating up here instead. So slightly different, right? Our consolidation regions were in this band, red, orange, and in this band for Ether. So you could argue that for HEX, maybe we see something slightly different, like a permutation of this where we pump up to, let's say, between the green and the blue and form a consolidation around here, kind of offset from this before continuing higher. So between orange and blue right now would correspond to, let's pull this up. I had this open because I didn't want to touch a little bit on that, but I should have had this opened to see where green and blue are currently. So green and blue are currently between the 15 to 25 cent region or so, mid-July. So again, we see convergence with multiple models ranging from horizontal support resistance levels, this 7th month channel, the HEX ETH, HEX BTC similarity. Could we see a similar pattern playing out? Our HEX versus ETH regression rainbow models, they're all saying that we should be pumping soon. So does this chart, right? Our fair value is currently sitting at around 12 to 16 cents. So that's what I'm expecting. Is it going to play out? I have no clue, right? I have no clue. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. But all of my models are currently pointing at 12 cents and beyond, right? Some charts are way more bullish than others, depending on the time frame. You can also kind of scale your bullishness, but for the most part, all my charts are pointing just straight up, man. So that's your video for the day. Let me know if you're as bullish as me, or if you are nowhere near as bullish as me. Am I freaking crazy? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave your comments down below on that. Be subscribed by now, definitely. You've been watching 13 minutes of me rambling about charts. You should probably subscribe and leave a thumbs up to support the channel, which also helps the algorithm, right? It helps the algorithm to spread the channel and hopefully accelerate these predictions, right? So with that said, again, I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.